Mr. Speaker and members of the House, I want to join my colleagues in paying tribute to the great member of Congress here serving with us today, but planning to retire, the Honorable John Dingell. And I'd like to do so by telling a little story. Some 40 years ago, I was elected to the Congress of the United States for the first time. And before I had even been sworn in, I faced my first big challenge. The congressman that I preceded had passed some legislation called the Big Stone Wildlife Management Area, and the editor of our biggest newspaper had applauded him for that. And I supported it in my campaign, said I'll do everything I can to see that it's fully implemented and fully funded. Well, I had just been elected, and the President of the United States announced that the project was not going to go forward, was not going to be implemented, and was not going to be funded. So, here I am. I've just been elected, and at least it appears as though I'm already doing harm and damage to the district, and I haven't even been sworn in yet. Well, we came out here for a little orientation session, and I decided I would check with the chairman of the Interior Committee responsible for this kind of legislation to see if he had any advice for me on how I could effectively deal with this. And he said, come see me tomorrow. So I went to see him the next day, and he said, put out a press release. The project's going to be fully staffed, it's going to be fully funded, it's going to be fully implemented. And I said to him questioningly, gee, Mr. Chairman, the President of the United States of America says it's not going to be fully funded. It's not going to be implemented. And he put his arm around me and he said, son, let me tell you something. He said, presidents come and go around this town with quite regularity. He said, old dogs like me, I've been here forever, going to be here forever. The bureaucracy will listen to an old dog like me before they'll ever listen to some darn fool president of the United States. Well, needless to say, apprehensively, I put out the press release saying the project was going to be fully funded, was going to be fully implemented, and indeed it was. And in the process, I learned an incredibly valuable lesson from Mr. Dingell, and that is there are many ways to affect public policy beyond the legislative actions, which of course are perhaps most important, that we make here in this chamber. But by getting a hold of these bureaucracies and talking to them and telling them what you'd like to see happen, and when appropriate, being supportive of their mission and their goals, they are inclined to be supportive of you as well. So that little story happened 40 years ago. Well, then I went on a 32-year hiatus and spent 32 years of the next 32 years of my life in the private sector, business, community service, and raising my family. But I came back here 40 years later, and who's still here proving his point but John Dingell. And as I said, 11 presidents have come and gone, but he is still here, and I believe has served longer than any other member of the Congress in the history of the country. Perhaps most importantly, he is maybe the greatest member to ever serve in the Congress. There is so much of the good things that have happened in this country over the better part of a half a century that we can attribute to the good work of the honorable representative, the great representative, John Dingell. And John, we are all so grateful for your incredible service, and I am thrilled and honored to be able to be here to join my many other colleagues in saluting you for your great service to the people that you have represented so ably from your own district, but your larger vision as well of what has been so important for the progress of the people here in America. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing that with so many of us who were benefited from having sought your wisdom, and thank you for your effectiveness, and thank you for all the great things you've done for this country. We salute you, Mr. Dingell, and we love you, and we will miss you, but we will be forever grateful. This country will always be a better place for you having served in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.